Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive with us. This time, we're going to be looking at the idea of stewardship. And not the kind of stewardship you might be thinking of, like just making sure your house is tidy or, those sorts of things. No, we're thinking much bigger this time.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about our responsibilities to the planet and to each other. And to help kind of get our heads around this, we're turning to an address from Bishop Gérald Caussé that was given at the General Conference of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Right. And for those who might not be familiar, these general conference addresses, they're meant to offer spiritual guidance and teachings to members of the church. Okay, so kind of set the stage for us here. What is Bishop Caussé getting at in this address?
Well, he uses this really lovely image. He talks about the beauty of nature. And he uses that to draw a parallel to our responsibilities as caretakers of everything around us, really.
Oh, I like that. So it's not just about, like, recycling, right?
Right.
It's about something much bigger.
Exactly, yeah. It's about our relationship with creation as a whole. And he starts off strong, too. He goes straight into this idea of ownership and how everything on Earth ultimately belongs to God.
Right.
And we're entrusted with caring for it.
It's a huge responsibility.
It is. I mean, just think about the scale of it. It's not just about, like I said, keeping our houses tidy. It's about the planet itself. It's about all forms of life, even our own bodies.
Yeah, and our families, too.
Oh, that's a good point. It's like this idea of stewardship extends to all aspects of our lives.
It does. And it really makes you question this idea of personal freedom, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, we tend to think about things in terms of what's mine.
Right.
My possessions, my choices, my freedom. But what if we approached things with the mindset of being caretakers instead?
Oh, that's an interesting shift in perspective.
It is. And it raises all sorts of questions about how we balance our own agency with the responsibility of caring for something that's not really ours in the conventional sense.
I was thinking about that too. Like, on the one hand, we have the freedom to make our own decisions. But on the other hand, there's this responsibility to care for something that's much bigger than ourselves. It's a bit of a paradox.
It is. And I think that's what makes this whole idea of stewardship so fascinating. It challenges our usual way of thinking, and it forces us to confront some really fundamental questions about our place in the world.
So how does Bishop Caussé suggest we navigate this balance between freedom and responsibility?
Well, he reminds us that everything is provided for our benefit, but not for us to use excessively or selfishly.
That makes sense.
It's like that idea of, enough is enough. We don't need to take more than we need or exploit the Earth's resources for our own personal gain.
He actually uses the word extortion in the address, which is pretty strong language, don't you think?
It is.
Yeah.
But I think it highlights the seriousness of the issue.
Yeah, it definitely gets your attention. So if we're not owners but caretakers, what does that actually look like in our daily lives?
Well, I think that's what we're going to explore as we dive deeper into Bishop Causé's message.
Excellent. I'm ready to dig in.
Me too. Bishop Caussé makes it really clear that stewardship is more than just like a trendy environmental thing. It's actually like a fundamental part of being a disciple, like woven into the very fabric of a good life,
Oh, interesting. So how does he connect those two things?
Well, he says, loving God means loving his creations.
Okay.
And that includes everything, from the tiniest insect to the vast oceans, and of course to our fellow humans.
Right. So it's not just about hugging trees.
No, not at all. It's about recognizing the inherent value and dignity of all living things.
And how our actions impact those things.
Exactly.
Okay, so practically speaking,
Yep.
what are some examples of how this stewardship plays out?
Well, using resources wisely, for one, being mindful of our consumption.
Right, like turning off lights when you leave a room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or, maybe choosing to walk or bike instead of driving when you can.
Oh, and what about supporting businesses that are committed to sustainability?
Yeah, absolutely. Voting with your dollars,
I like that.
making conscious choices about where you spend your money.
What about like keeping your personal space tidy and organized? Does that fall under stewardship too?
I think it does in a way.
Okay.
It's about showing respect for the things you have and creating a harmonious environment.
It's funny how something as simple as, putting away your clothes or doing the dishes can actually be tied back to this bigger idea of stewardship.
Right. It's about being mindful and intentional in all aspects of our lives.
Okay, so we're starting to get a clearer picture of what this stewardship thing looks like. But Bishop Caussé doesn't stop there, does he?
Oh, not at all.
He brings in this really powerful quote from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, where he talks about the lack of gardeners for men.
Oh, I love that quote.
It's so evocative, isn't it?
It is. It really expands this idea of stewardship
Yeah.
beyond just caring for the physical world.
Right. It's about caring for each other, too. Okay, so help me understand this a little bit better. What does it actually mean to be a gardener for men?
Well, I think it's about nurturing and caring for others, helping them to grow and thrive, just like a gardener tends to their plants.
Okay, so it's about more than just, you know, basic needs like food and shelter.
Right. It's about fostering an environment where people can flourish, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually.
And this extends beyond just our immediate circle, right? Like our families and friends.
Absolutely.
Bishop Caussé is pretty clear that this responsibility goes much further.
It's about recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every single person on the planet.
Wow, that's a big ask.
It is, but I think it's a necessary one.
I agree. So we're not just talking about being nice to our neighbors.
Right.
This is about something much more profound.
It's about recognizing our shared humanity and our interconnectedness as a global community.
And acting accordingly.
Exactly.
So if we're all gardeners in this global garden, what does that mean for our individual actions? Like, how do we actually put this into practice?
Well, I think that's a question we all need to grapple with. And there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Right.
But I think it starts with awareness. Recognizing the impact our choices have, both on those around us and on the world as a whole.
And then making conscious decisions.
Yeah, to act in ways that promote well-being and flourishing. For ourselves, for others, and for the planet.
You know, it's easy to get overwhelmed by the scale of global problems.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think what Bishop Caussé is suggesting is we don't have to solve everything at once.
Right.
It's about taking small steps.
Exactly.
Making choices in our daily lives that reflect our values and our commitment to being good stewards.
It's those small acts of kindness, compassion, and responsibility that multiplied millions of times over can create a ripple effect that transforms the world.
Oh, I love that image of a ripple effect. It's so hopeful.
It is, and I think it's a powerful reminder that even though we might feel insignificant as individuals, our actions do matter.
They really do.
And they can have a profound impact on the world around us.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to encourage everyone listening to take a moment and reflect on your own role as a gardener. What seeds are you planting? And what kind of world are you helping to create?
Because ultimately, the future of our planet and the well-being of humanity rests in our hands.
It's a big responsibility, but it's also an incredible opportunity
To make a difference.
to leave the world a little bit better than we found it.
Exactly.
And I think that's something worth striving for. So we've been talking about this idea of stewardship and how it applies to so many different areas of our lives, from caring for the environment to nurturing our relationships with others. And I think one of the key takeaways for me has been this idea that we're not just meant to preserve what already exists. We're actually called to do more than that.
Oh, absolutely.
We're challenged to enhance, to improve, to make things even better.
It's not enough to just maintain the status quo.
Yeah.
Bishop Caussé really emphasizes that we have the potential to make a real difference. And we're being called to step up and use that potential.
You know, it's like we're all given this incredible gift, this world full of beauty and wonder. And we have the opportunity to not only appreciate it, but to actually contribute to it.
To make our own mark on creation.
Exactly. And that contribution can take so many different forms. It could be through our creative endeavors, our efforts to protect the environment, or even just the way we interact with each other in our daily lives.
It's about recognizing that every choice we make, every action we take, contributes to the overall tapestry of life.
And speaking of choices, Bishop Caussé also brings up this important point about accountability.
Right.
He reminds us that we'll ultimately be answerable for how we've used our time and resources, for the impact we've had on the world.
It can be a bit of a sobering thought.
Yeah.
But I think it's also a motivating one.
I agree. It encourages us to really think about the legacy we're creating and to make choices that align with our values.
To live with intention.
Exactly.
And I think that's a beautiful way to approach life.
You know, it's like we're each given a plot of land to tend to, and we have the freedom to choose what we'll plant, how we'll care for it, and ultimately what kind of harvest we'll yield.
And the beautiful thing is, we don't have to do it alone. We can collaborate, share ideas, and support each other in our efforts.
Oh, absolutely. It's like that idea of being gardeners, not just for our own little patch of land, but for humanity as a whole.
Exactly. Bishop Caussé uses that metaphor to really emphasize the interconnectedness of all things.
Right. He's saying that our well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of others. and to the health of the planet itself.
It's a powerful image, and it speaks to the importance of cultivating compassion, cooperation, and a sense of shared responsibility.
You know, sometimes it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of global problems.
Oh, I know what you mean.
But I think what Bishop Caussé is suggesting is that we don't have to solve everything at once. It's about focusing on what we can control, our own choices and actions.
And trusting that even small acts of kindness and responsibility can make a difference.
Absolutely. It's like that ripple effect we talked about earlier.
Exactly.
One small act can create waves that spread far and wide. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought. What kind of gardener are you? What seeds are you planting in the world? And what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
It's a beautiful way to frame it. And I think it's a question we should all be asking ourselves.
Because the world we create tomorrow will be the result of the choices we make today.
So let's choose wisely.
Let's choose to be gardeners who cultivate beauty, kindness, and sustainability for ourselves, for each other, and for generations to come.
That's a world I want to be a part of.
Me too. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it as thought-provoking as we did.
Until next time.
Keep exploring.